We are off round 4 of the Miche Wessex League and another subpar start from me. But if you look at Nathan in the pedal-on kit and the blue and orange kit, that lad always gets a good start. So I need to see what he's doing on the Tuesday night session. But it is a little bit better than last week. I'm in about 5th or 6th position and I'm on David Bone's wheel. He won the league last year, won last week, so I'm thinking it's not all too bad, but we are motoring. And look at this little move here. Easy Tiger, skidder for kids, Boney. I saw that, he nearly went down. It's a good job the man's got some skills or he'd have been down and out, but this was a fast start. You saw down that first stretch, we were doing over 30 mile an hour. Nathan went out like he had a rocket up his backside and I was thinking, oh my God, this is painful already. I just cannot get used to these starts. They're just so full on. And I say to myself every week, just get on that front rider's wheel and cling on for dear life. I just want to survive one lap. But they're just motoring. You can see in the distance the gap Nathan's put in already. And everyone's starting to think we need to get on his wheel, shut that down. And I know David Bone will be thinking that. So in the next couple of corners, you're going to see a bit of a masterclass from him, how he starts to move up and get himself in a good position. So just here he starts to wind it up. We've got Oscar on the left. He is back for redemption and back to take me down this week. But Boney moves up and I tried to go with it and I want to stay on his wheel because I know he's going to close that gap down. Oscar's having absolute none of it, squeezes me a little bit wide here and I was so close to hitting that fence on the right. I didn't even realise it was there because we were going so fast. But I want you to watch David Bone on the yellow bike now. He rides this section, we get off, Oscar has a bit of a nightmare there and sits it, but look at the gap he gets on us straight away. So now I'm chasing, we've got Nathan up there who's got a gap already, you can see him in the distance. Boney's trying to shut that down and then I'm chasing already. It makes a massive difference being able to ride that section. I know what you're thinking, in the practice vlog video you were riding it, but the way I think of it during a race, if you can't do it 9 out of 10 times fresh, it's probably not worth risking it during the race. And you're going to see masterclass number 2 from Boney. If you just look ahead of James Bevan, he rides the stairs as well. And look, he's on the bike straight away and he shut that gap down to Nathan and he goes straight past him. And they're the little points where you can make up so much time. Look at the gap he's got on me. My remounts, dismounts are not great. I do a bit of a dirty move on James Bevan here. He goes a bit wide, so I'm like, I'll have that inside line. Just absolute dive bomber central. Because I'm trying to shut them boys down at the front. I want to be on that wheel. And I set myself a goal before this race. I was like, I want to be with the front 2 and I knew it was going to be Boney and Nathan on lap 1 out front and I thought I want to be with them after a lap. But you saw the little bits that made a massive difference. Nathan got a really good start. Also David Bone managed to ride the off-camber section and the stairs, and they're big things that can cost you. Like, this is a huge gap now. This is like a 5-second gap that I'm trying to make up. They're already going full gas and they're super fit, super strong and really good technical riders. And if you don't get on the wheel straight away, this is what happens. And it's only gonna get worse for me from here because they're gonna be battling it out and able to get a little bit of draft and help each other. I'm trying to chase it down and you just can't afford to make these mistakes at the front end of the race because they will punish you. And they're not particularly mistakes, they were just better riders than me on the day. They could ride tricky sections. One bit I was struggling with is the remount, and you're going to see a massive part of the race which unfolds towards the end. I'm not going to give a spoiler, but the remount cost me massively. And you can see they're only just round the corner. You can see the boys that are trying to chase me down. I think at this point I've got Ben on my wheel and I can see Boney and Nathan are starting to pull a gap on me now, so you can see they're just going through the few corners ahead of me and they're about to go through pits, and I'm thinking I can't shut this down now. I need to try and recover a little bit, get into a good rhythm and start my race from here and try and fight for that podium position again, because that gap's gone now. But as we come round this corner here, I think it is just here, Ben goes absolutely ripping it round the outside. After this corner, I think it is, he comes round the outside of me just here now, hopefully, there it is, and he puts some speed back into the race, and I'm like, thank God, I've got a wheel to jump on, and I'm thinking he might be able to tow me back on, so I've jumped straight on it. And I mean, he's putting out some power, he's digging it out of the corners, absolutely loving it, and I'm thinking this could be it, this could drag me back on to the front boys. But in all honesty, I was just hurting trying to stay on his wheel at this point, and I was thinking it'd be a bloody miracle if I managed to hold his wheel, let alone bridge back over to those boys. But now I'm not gonna put a dampener on it, but the front boys have gone. They have put a gap into us now. You can't close that down. I mean, I'm struggling to hold Ben's wheel. He wasn't closing it down, and you can just see them going around the corner after the hurdles there, and they've put a significant gap in now. So those two were battling it out for the front of the race for first and second. We were now battling it out for third place and getting that step on the podium again. And just here, I got a little bit lazy. You saw Ben look under his arm to see if I was still there, and he kept putting the pressure on the pedals, and I got a little bit lazy, let a gap open. This is schoolboy, you can't be doing this. But you can see the gap that the lads on the front have got. It's not huge, but in all honesty, it's big in terms of trying to shut that down in a cyclocross race. But I managed to get straight back on Ben's wheel, thankfully. He did put a bit of a gap into me for a second, and you can't get lazy like that in cross. You've got to be giving it 100% all the time. If you're not pedaling, you are losing time. And also on this course, there is a lot of dismounts. You'll see here, Ben tries to ride the off-cam but don't quite get it right. I'm off and running at that section, so I take the front, and I think he was pretty pleased about that anyway, to get a little bit of wheel to suck. But from this point, the reason why I kept on the pedals and kept pressing on, it wasn't to shut down the front boys, it was because Oscar from last week, who I did dive bomb and beat to the podium, is hunting us down. And I'm thinking to myself, I do not want this man to catch me and put me in the hurt locker again. So I'm trying to keep the pressure on the pedals, but about half a lap later, he bridges on and goes straight past like a steam train, and he was out for redemption. He was out for payback this week, and I thought, you've got to just jump on his wheel again, be your standard wheel sucker, and hang on for dear life. What I want you to notice now is how good Oscar is at remounting the bike. Look at that, absolutely effortless. Straight back on the power. And as I said, during this race, there is 3 points where we dismount, I think. 3 points, yeah, for the hurdles, stuff like that. He does make a little mistake here, and I tried to go past him, but I didn't quite have the berries, and he was not letting me pass. Look, straight back in front of me and putting me in the hurt box. But as I was saying, there was 3 points you had to dismount, which over 9 laps is 27 dismounts. If Oscar's putting seconds into me every time on the dismounts and remounts, I'm having to make that up somewhere, and he's saving energy. So I have got things to work on massively. This is what I love about cross. It's not all about fitness and who can give it the ponies. It is all about being an all-round athlete. Look at this here. When he remounts, look at this gap he puts in. That is ridiculous. You cannot afford to do that. And over 27 times, I've got to shut that down. And it puts a hole in your legs every time you got to do it. So I know I need to work on my remounts, dismounts, my skills still, because every corner, every dismount, a second here and there, if you can make that up, you can get back onto the front boys and just here, I have gone through. I was getting some stick from the people. Well, we were getting some stick from the people in the pits saying to Oscar, don't let them do it, don't do all the work, Oscar, blah, blah, blah. He was just doing all the work in front of the pits. Look at me on the front towing him round. No, I'm joking, but I did go on the front for about half a lap, and then he puts a monumental attack on me, and I thought, if you're gonna play them games, I will make you go on the front. He put a big attack in here, and I was like, you've got to dig in and go with this. And I think the reason why he put an attack in is because if you look on the right, I think it's just here, there, you can see Nick is chasing us down. So we're battling for third, he's up there on the left, and he's in 6th position, so he's hunting us down and he wants to bridge on, and he's a strong boy. We do not want to take him with us. So Oscar's put down some absolute ponies here, and he's put a hole in my leg, and you can see here he's looking over his shoulder seeing if he's done any damage. But you ain't this time, son. I've managed to cling on to you for dear life. And just here is where they were shouting like, don't do the work. Oscar was flicking his elbow, and I did come through a bit. Look, giving me all the stick in the pits. I came through, but he wanted to be on the front, I tell you. So who am I to stop the man? Let him go on the front. And he puts a big effort in down here to just get our speed up again. And this is what we needed to try and get away from Nick. Like, sometimes in a cyclocross race, you have a little lull, and you just can't afford to let that happen because someone can easily bridge back on. You can see he was just there on the left. But look, again, going round a corner, I've lost a few seconds, and then I'm having to bury myself to get back on. And time and time again, you can't afford to do this during a cyclocross race. It's just not good enough. But this is now the battle for the top 3, and you'll see here Ben manages just about to ride that section, and he gets a little gap on us, so he's now on the front, and it's about time the man done some work. He was sitting in and playing me at my own game, to be honest, but he did come through, done a bit of work. But then yet again, Oscar goes straight back to the front. What can you do? The man wants that 3rd place today. And just here, I think I dive bombed them both, and it wasn't to be dirty. It was because I noticed Nick was literally like a couple of seconds behind, so I thought I'm going to go to the front, up the pace here. Oscar was having absolutely none of it. Look at that. He dive bombs me straight on the next corner. Genuinely then, it wasn't to be a chopper move and dive bomb. It was purely because we were getting caught. I was trying to do a favour, please believe me. But he was having none of it. Came straight back past. I was like, fair play. But it did inject some pace back into the race. And Ben goes on a little move there, but Oscar just nudges him wide. Love that. This race was physical between the 3 of us. Elbows out. Sharpen those elbows, boys, because it was full on. But Ben did come to the front about half a lap later, to your surprise, and he did put a big dig in. And I think he was seeing if he could drop us, basically. That is what you got to do. You've got to decide whether you think you can make it to the end. We're 40 minutes in. We've still got 20 minutes to go. And he tried to put the hurt on. Look again, Oscar's remounts, phenomenal. I'm not going to blow too much smoke up his backside, but look, he made up a place there through that remount. I don't want to blow too much smoke, though, because you're going to see the final result. And we are enemies at the moment. But this is where I was getting some stick from the pits, and I was giving it back a little bit. I can't do it all out here. But you'll see back over the hurdles, I was giving it a little bit back to the guys in the pits. You've got to have fun when you're out there doing it. And I'll admit, although Oscar was absolutely buried, I've left this clip in there. That is Rob on the left. Sorry, I had to leave that in there because he messaged me and he said that stop in there to let us pass cost him 0.03 of a second, which cost him 24th place, he was telling me. I'm sorry, Rob, I had to leave that in there. But anyway, back to the action. We have got 2 laps left. You saw Oscar move out the way there because everyone in the pits was telling him not to do any work, so I was like, fair play, he's moved out the way. I've come through to the front here, and you know that I do not want to be on the front with like 1.5 laps to go, because right now I'm thinking, where is the place that I am going to be able to either drop these boys or do them coming into the final? Do them, that sounds a bit wrong, but where I'm going to be able to beat them on the final section. I'm giving it a little bit more to the pits here. You've got to tell them to do some work. Trying to prove that I am on the front, and this is the point where I want to be in the front on the last lap into this off camber section, because after this it's going to be a drag race to the hurdles, and who is into the hurdles first is going to be one of the most important bits. So you can see here I'm coming into the bell lap, I'm swinging over from side to side, flicking my elbow because I'm trying to get one of the boys to come past me, because I don't want to be on the front. I want to be sort of second wheel coming into just before the off camber, and then I'm going to do a cheeky move to get into the off camber first and try and take the win from there. That is where I feel like I can hang on to the end from, but you don't know what's going to happen. And just here, Ben makes his move. He comes to the front, and with 1 lap to go, or half a lap now, you've got to get straight on that. As much as you're suffering, your heart rate's up nice and high, you got to get on that and just bury yourself to the end now. He puts a dig in down here, and I think this put a bit of a hole in my legs, I'm not gonna lie. Heart rate's above 180. I'm trying to recover best I can now that I'm not on the front, because I know where I want to make my move, but it's not easy to recover when someone's putting you in the hurt box. But we're going to jump forward in a second. We've got these last few corners, and then we come back up into the pit area here, and he is still putting in a big effort, and I think he looks over his shoulder there and he knows that he hasn't done any damage. We're still both there. Oscar's there, I'm there, and we're coming into the last few corners before we get to that off camber section. What I didn't account for is back markers. You can't always get the perfect run into the finish, but you'll see just ahead there's a back marker. So where I wanted to make my move to get into the off camber first was actually just here. So as we come, you see I start trying to move up, but Ben has to move over as well, and I bail out of it because I'm like, I'm not, as much as I like a good old chopper move in a race, I don't want to take us all out, because then Oscar's just going to skip on past and beat us all. But this is where it gets intense. We've got a few more corners. I need to get into them hurdles first. It gets physical. I need to practice getting my elbows sharp and doing some bench press to push these boys out. I make my move, come up the inside. Look at Ben's wheel. He completely whacks me with his bike, which throws me out wide. And while we're tussling, the man himself that can remount like a legend gets on. Ben gets this corner wrong. You can't park there, mate. And that gave Oscar the little gap he needed to just absolutely bury himself to the finish. I knew it was over now. I wasn't going to be able to catch back up. Fair play to Oscar. His remounts and general fitness throughout the whole race, being on the front a lot, got him the 3rd place on the podium. I come through in 4th, and Ben took 5th place. And obviously Boney came 1st, Nathan 2nd. Absolutely epic race.